And here we go.
What is going on, guys? My name is Mike from the Super Wheeler Bros, and we have a really special video here for you today. I have got a review on the box office smash Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, one of the most anticipated movies of the year. Now, I wanted to wait a couple days and really think hard about what I thought of the movie, just because I did have a couple of people that kind of shook my faith in what I saw, and after careful kind of thought and deliberation, I'm here to bring you what I think of the movie. Now, what we're going to do is do kind of a spoiler-free review real quick, get you a quick score, and then later on, after we've done that, maybe after a quick, maybe 5 or 6 minute review, we will get into specific plot points and spoilers, so you can watch right now and kind of get a fresh view of the movie without having to worry about it being spoiled for you. And then later on, we'll break down everything in much, much greater detail. So let's go ahead and get right into it. First off, the movie itself, even though there was rampant rumors of there being dissension in the ranks and a lot of reshoots and, you know, Tony Gilroy coming in to kind of mop up and clean up the ending and things like that, there is really a lot to love about this movie. Matter of fact, I loved this movie. I really did. I can't say that I like it better than I like The Force Awakens. I was one of the folks that just thought that that was just a cornucopia of greatness. A lot of nostalgia and things like that. And that's what you get a lot here. This feels like a Star Wars movie, but it also feels almost like a gritty Western, almost like a war movie, like a Dirty Dozen, you know, Magnificent Seven type war movie. We kind of start out really quickly kind of going all over the place, just getting associated with characters. And in this movie, you're going to get kind of a couple of archetypes where you kind of know their type of character, and that's pretty much what you're going to have to go on. You have to build your connection based on knowing what that type of character is. And Felicity Jones as Jyn Erso and Diego Luna as Captain Cassian are definitely your focal points of this movie. And Alan Tudyk definitely was a show stealer as K2SO. He got all the best one-liners, got all the best lines, period, really. And, you know, characters, there was some really cool and badass characters, I'll say that. However, there wasn't a lot of characterization. That might be one drawback of the movie. However, I think this just adds so much to the trilogy, the original trilogy. I mean, right up until A New Hope starts. I mean, you could pop in A New Hope and bam, you're right there by the end of this movie. And it is just, it's great fan service. I really feel like it definitely enhanced some things, enhancing the original trilogy, just making everything just much more important and impactful. And without giving too much away, I'll give more insight into what I mean with it impacts the trilogy and makes it just enhanced so much a little bit later on in the review. You know, there's some story beats that, you know, they totally make sense, and it's very linear. It moves straight ahead with, you know, without much fat being on the movie. There's not a whole lot of, you know, exposition and things like that, and when there is, it's very quick and to the point, you know, just moving the story along. Not a lot of political dialogue, even though there is some. It starts out a little slow and unfocused in the beginning, but by the time you hit the middle and hit the end, where it is just spectacular at the end, just the final act is so great that it lifts up the earlier parts of the movie where you're trying to kind of just associate with the characters and get behind the cause and that they're trying to rally behind. And they did an excellent job. I still, you know, I really love Revenge of the Sith, but I do believe this is probably the best prequel, especially when you go back and watch them. You know, they're a little dated, the original prequels, and you know, I know a lot of people have a huge hatred for those, and you know, I'm not really one of them. I really love everything that Star Wars has had to offer so far, and this right here, it was a little unexpected for me for it to be this excellent, and for me to enjoy myself as much as I did. You know, I was expecting a good movie, but I didn't have high expectations of it. The trailers haven't blown me away, but just the execution of the story, very quick, very to the point. You know, if I had maybe one minor quibble with the movie itself, was just that Krennic, Ben Mendelsohn as Krennic, he was appropriately over the top and sniveling, but he just, I'll just put it this way, he doesn't hold a candle to other villains in the series. And that even goes with all three villains in The Force Awakens. You know, and there's a couple of, you know, folks in this movie that, you know, we'll talk about a little bit later and in more depth that, you know, really enhance it. So overall, I think it was an excellent movie. There's a lot of cool characters to add to the Star Wars canon. There is a great story and an amazing final act. The final 45 minutes of this movie are just excellent. Great movie making, and Gareth Edwards did a great job. There's no telling how much Tony Gilroy played a part in this, but, you know, there's not much to be surprised by here. It's Disney. They're not going to put out just a bad product. I haven't seen one that's just been god-awful in, you know, ages. So, great movie. I would probably, if I was going to give it an actual score, I probably would go with at least an 8. At least an 8. My first reaction was probably closer to a 9, but, you know, after taking some criticisms into light and, you know, internalizing that, I probably would maybe reduce it to an 8. It's a fantastic movie, and it's one of my favorite movies of the year. I'll say that. Now, we've talked about things without spoilers. Now we're going to get into specific plot details and specific things about the movie that I really loved. Lines of dialogue, so we're going to spoil the crap out of everything. So if you have not gone to see the movie, first of all, what are you doing? Go out and see it. It's great. You'll enjoy yourself. If you haven't seen the movie, please click away and come back and watch this review after you've seen the movie, because if you go into the movie knowing everything that I'm about to talk about, it's definitely going to lessen what you feel. It'd lessen the impact of what you see on the screen. So, essentially, what we have at the beginning of the movie is almost a great, almost Inglourious Basterds type opening scene where you have director Krennic coming at Galen Erso, played by the absolutely amazing Mads Mikkelsen, and he is basically trying to, you know, get Galen to come back and work on the weapon for the Death Star. And Galen Erso does not want to go, but in an attempt to try to protect his family, including young Jyn Erso, who he tried to whisk away, he goes along with it. And he goes along with, you know, knowing that if he doesn't work on the Death Star, he can't control the length of time it takes to get done, and just the big gaping plot hole, I think, and this is just one of the things that makes the original trilogy much better, is this explanation, and that is, and it's a really logical one thinking about it. You know, if he controls the development of the weapon, then he can build in a failsafe. He can build in a way to defeat the Death Star. And that was the one huge nitpicky thing that, you know, in the original trilogy and the original A New Hope, the original Star Wars, that you could literally fire these balls of light down this little hole and it goes into the shaft and destroys everything. Well, now we have a logical and, you know, easily explainable reason for why that happened. And it's great that Mads Mikkelsen plays that character. And it's a quick jump to Felicity Jones and her being grown up. Forrest Whitaker plays Sol Guerrera, and I think I didn't love what he did, but luckily he wasn't on screen very long. he ended up kind of getting out of the picture pretty quickly, but he kept talking like this, child. I don't understand. Like, it was like he was getting, you know, his throat stepped on. It was kind of an antithesis of Vader a little bit. It was kind of pretty cool. You know, they're mostly machine, you know, breathing apparatus and things like that. And, you know, I think it was kind of cool that maybe they were trying to draw a parallel there. I get it, but I didn't love what he did. But he just has such a good screen presence, you know, and I don't know, I think there was a lot of stuff that you can tell that this movie had some things that were a little disjointed based on trailers and shots that were in the trailers. And Saul Guerrero, Forrest Whitaker, he had a shot where, you know, he's bald-headed, and the only time you see him bald-headed is in the beginning of the movie when he comes to get Jyn Erso, when she's 6 years old. And there's really no explanation as to why he has gray hair. Works in the movie, but it's weird that it's not, you know, the same way in the trailer the whole time. But what you do get with Saul Guerrero is kind of this weird scene where the pilot, played by Riz Ahmed, and he plays Bodhi Rook, the pilot. He's a really good character, and he's a pretty good actor, but the scenes with him and the like weird tentacle mind controlling monster, that was just really weird, and I don't know what that was about, but you know, minor nitpicks there, minor nitpicks. That was just a weird scene. Felicity Jones, I think where she really gets you, where she really tugs at your heartstrings in this movie, is where she has her scene with her holographic father. You know, it could have easily been an angsty, you know, you left me, you know, you weren't there for me. But it was such a human reaction with her just kind of falling to pieces in front of her father, who's not actually there. It was just a really, really touching scene. It gets you right in the feels, man. And I thought that she did a great job conveying that, and Mads did a great job conveying, you know, just the loss of his daughter, like, you know, never being able to see her again. He doesn't even know if she's alive at this point, but he's trying to finish his work so that the rebels can triumph. And it's a really touching way to go about the story, because this could have been just one of the most uninteresting stories ever told in the Star Wars saga, but this just feels so canon by the way that they connected everything. And the little Easter eggs that they drop in throughout, you know, Admiral Akbar, Mon Mothma, the guys on on the planet Jedha, you know, bumping into Jyn Erso just a few hours later are going to get massacred by Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Mos Eisley criminal guys. I have the death sentence on 7 systems or something like that. Their little cameo was great. You know, there's so many things that just connect and thread itself to the original trilogy, and I loved that. That was really great for me. It was great fan service, and it's little things that you won't notice if, you know, if you're not a fan of the saga or the series, but it's great for people who do notice those things. And I loved Cassian having a couple of great scenes to kind of explain his character away, because again, a big criticism of this movie is that there's not really a bunch of characters to kind of get behind, even though they're really cool and really badass. And what you get is just really small tidbits. Cassian is the only one that kind of has like a more of a 3-dimensional character a little bit. His intentions are not really known until the end, and he basically has the thing where he tells Jyn Erso that he's been in this since he was 6 years old. He just decided to do something about it. And that character beat's really great. And I had a lot of people criticize the kind of the scene where he just takes the dude out in the alleyway, and I don't think that's something he wanted to do. It's something that he had to do, and he's gonna do what he has to do. This is kind of an underside of the Rebel Alliance that we haven't really seen before. They're not all squeaky clean, and it's a really interesting aspect to dive into. The great characters of Imwe and Baze, played by Donnie Yen as the blind kind of one with the Force, I am one with the Force is one with me. And Wen Jiang, who played Baze. Those guys were really cool, and they did something with their characters that was really exciting because they weren't given any backstory, but you could just tell their friendship lasted a lifetime just based on their interaction with each other and their connection that they seemed to make. And that's really phenomenal to me because they just didn't have any kind of characterization or backstory, but they were able to convey it. And Donnie Yen was just so awesome. So awesome. Having the character of Bail Organa and Jimmy Smits and talking about how he's going to Alderaan is another little gotcha right in the feels kind of thing. It was just really cool to see Jimmy Smits in there, and that dude classes up everything that he's in, so that was great to see him. I think the final act is just so good, and it's really awesome. I mean, I know that going into a movie knowing that everyone is going to die, and just, you know, being able to try and connect with characters on a one-off is really tough, and they did a really good job. I know a lot of people have said that it's kind of pointless, but I didn't feel that way at all. I really just loved the connection of the characters. You know, if I had any complaints at all about the characters, it's just that I wish there was more. I wish there was more with them because I really enjoyed them. I thought the connection between how Jyn was able to find the plans for the Death Star was her nickname Stardust from her father. I thought that was a great little connection. It was just awesome, and just the whole end sequence was great. The action was amazing. It was flawlessly paced. I can't say enough about the final edit of the end of the movie, and if that was responsible by Tony Gilroy, then I thank him. The only thing maybe that I could criticize is, again, the villain. I just wish maybe Darth Vader, and this is just, you know, fan wish fulfillment, was maybe Darth Vader would be on that beach, you know, because whether or not it's part of the story or the canon or not, you know, it's a fiction. You can make it any way you want it. So that's just me being selfish, I think. But speaking of which, you know, Krennic, Ben Mendelsohn as Krennic, while he did the job, there was two other ominous figures in the background. One was something I know has been criticized, and it didn't take me out of the movie at all, and that is the long dead Peter Cushing as Grand Moff Tarkin. And I thought that maybe he would only be in the periphery, but no, he's front and center, and he is in some of these scenes, and whoever did the voice work, commendable. Wow, very good job. They could have lessened some of those scenes and maybe popped more of Darth Vader in there, in my opinion. That might be my only criticism of that stuff, because I thought he looked great. It just was unnecessary to have Grand Moff Tarkin in there a lot. Could have used that opportunity to pop some Darth Vader in there, in my opinion. But let's get to Vader. Oh, man. Oh, it was so good. There were really just two main scenes with Darth Vader in them. Hearing James Earl Jones' voice come out of Vader, that was music to my ears. It was fantastic. I only wish there was more. And the line that seems to be getting killed, "Don't choke on your aspirations," that he said to Major Krennic, I loved that line. I thought it was a perfect Darth Vader line, and I know I have had friends say that they thought that was so cringeworthy and that it was just as bad as anything in the prequel trilogy. I don't think so. Go back and watch that stuff. I promise you. There's nothing as bad as "you want to take her from me." There's nothing as bad as it's soft and coarse and gets everywhere. The freaking dialogue, and never mind. Getting on a tangent, but that line was great, and the scene at the end was, dude, that was nerdgasmic. That was so awesome. And yeah, it leaves you wanting more, but it totally also just quenches your thirst just enough. It's so good. It's so good. He just fucking demolishes people. He just demolishes people, and it is unreal. And I just thought that that little itty bit was so good, where it's between this guy tossing this one piece of, you know, machinery through a door to another guy to get it to Princess Leia. It was spectacular. Just, that's the only thing that stood between living and dying for the Rebel Alliance. And I just thought it was great. And again, that's where it enhances the original trilogy, is it makes everything just so much more impactful and poignant when you see how many people died to get those plans to the rebels. And speaking of another cameo, Carrie Fisher, they got a little young Princess Leia in there, and she has one line, and it's hope, and that's it. And it was perfect. It was perfect. It didn't linger on her face too long. They did a great job with it. Great use. Definitely better than Tarkin, even though I thought Tarkin was pretty good. It didn't take me out of any scenes. I know that a lot of people had that complaint, but it didn't bother me in the slightest. But just, there's so much to love about this movie. I could probably go on for days and days on how it enhances the original trilogy and just how much I enjoyed it. And that's exactly where I'm probably going to leave it. We have many different videos we can probably make on this, and that's what we're going to do. So stay tuned for the top 10 reasons Rogue One makes A New Hope / the original trilogy better, and top 10 Easter eggs. And there's just so many great things about this movie. It was fantastic. And like I said, if I could criticize one thing, it's going to be just characters and Darth Vader. Wish there was more Vader. That's really the big thing, you know. That's why it's not perfect. It has flaws. It does look a little bit like there's a disjointed feel in some things. You know, it's missing certain aspects from the trailer. Thank God the "I'm a rebel, I rebel" line wasn't in there. I'm glad they came to their senses on that. But overall, just so much better than many movies that have these, you know, reshoots. I thought that they were able to Frankenstein it together and do an amazing job. And I'm really excited to see what comes now with Episode 8 and the Han Solo prequel. So much to say about the Star Wars saga and what Disney's done with it. Kudos. That's going to do it for this review. Tell me what you thought of Rogue One in the comments below. I would love to talk to you guys about it, whether you loved it or you hated it. Tell me what you thought. If you enjoyed this review, definitely hit that like button. It helps us out a ton. And if you enjoy great content like this, reviews, top 10s and such, we're going to be bringing a ton more of those to you real soon on the channel. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. My name is Mike from the Super Wheeler Bros, and may the Force be with you. And as always, have yourselves a super week.